Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I am Dr. Dre, and I am fortunate to have my co-host join me this afternoon. Delighted to have Dr. Loretta Howard and Dr. Sheryl White. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Dr. Dre.
How are we doing today?
Doing well. A little discombobulated
All
traveling
right.
and all that, but
It's all
here
good.
and thankful.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a wonderful topic that we are going to feast on throughout the month of June, dealing with
Oh,
conflict. Today is conflict, courage, and the leader's choice. And every leader obviously will face conflict. And the question is never if, but again, how will you deal with it? And so, in today's episode, and with our guests to follow in the coming weeks, we're going to explore and unpack one of the leadership's most unavoidable realities. I would almost go as far as saying conflict is necessary to build good relationships up. And I'm sure folks will disagree with me on that, have some conflict with that, and that's okay. Let me drop this little nugget on you. 85, according to Gartner and Myers-Briggs company report, 85% of employees experience some form of workplace conflict. 85%, with 29% dealing with it almost constantly, and it's growing. And that conflict has doubled since 2008 to today. And the return to office mandates in 2024, 2025 have further complicated and have fueled these tensions. And so I just thought I'd just drop that nugget on you in terms of a stat and certainly many more to share with you as we kind of go along the way. Um, and I always like to say, speaking of conflict, we have a wonderful gathering coming up at the end of this month. I believe we've talking about June 26th. Registration is still open. We're going to put a QR code up too for folks to tap into that. But you can go and register at that below link. We'll show it a few more times throughout the show, so you'll have an opportunity to kind of copy that. But we'd love to have you come and join. Again, the wonderful people's doctors, Dr. Sheryl, Dr. Loretta, myself, along with other leaders across the country, are going to convene for just a little bit about an hour or so, hour and a half, and we're going to dig deep into the conversation around conflict. So, love to have you at this wonderful gathering and this conversation. It promises to be a powerful one. And certainly, hopefully, you walk away with some additional tools and some resources to really think about how to deal with conflict. So we're going to be talking about this all month. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I love conflict. Dr. Loretta, Dr. Cheryl may know that. Maybe too
Yes, we
much,
do.
but it's all good. So yeah, so let's get into the conflict. We just want to kind of set a little bit the pace in terms of what's to come in the following weeks. We want to continue to encourage our listeners to send in those wonderful questions. Love the feedback you've been sharing. Continue to drop us a line. Continue to send us those questions. Let us know how we're doing. If there's a question you want to pop out there for us to put on the air and to share and to answer, please do that as well. Or whatever might come to your mind as a leader in terms of topics we can explore moving down the road here. So we have one question. We want to go ahead and just delve into that as well. And from this particular participant, they stated, I agree that leaders need to address conflict. But what do you do when the conflict is with your boss or someone above you? And speaking up could cost, again, you your job. What do you do? Do you just be quiet? Do you avoid it? What happens? What should you do? So, Dr. Sherman, let you take us first swing at that, and then Dr. Loretta, and I'll add anything else to that as well. So,
Mhm. I think first thing you do is a power analysis.
okay, all right.
And yeah, I think you've kind of started. The person said that they are outpowered in this relationship. And so then we have to think about like, what is it worth? And how significant. I think we have to sometimes choose based on impact. And, you know, last month we were talking about values and we were talking about
Mhm.
ethics.
Right.
Sometimes conflicts are really about big, important things. and
Hmm.
sometimes conflicts are not.
Hmm.
Um, and so, is it worth the engagement to begin with?
Hmm.
And I think we have to look at our influence. Is this a situation that I think I can influence? And what is my role? Sometimes we don't agree with how upper management or our supervisors are moving, but if I've been truthful in my feedback and in my thoughts, is it really do I own the decision? Do I have the authority to make the decision? And did I do my role by simply being willing to lean in and share my truth about what I think,
Hmm.
and then recognize and understand my position in that chain of command as to the authority that I have or don't have to really carry the decision over the threshold or over the line, or however we want to put it. So
Yeah.
so what do we do? I think you analyze what's your role, what's your authority level, what's the impact of speaking up or not speaking up, what's it
Hmm.
worth? Are you, what's the consequences you're willing to suffer?
Hmm.
And sometimes the best we can do is think about what is the best way for us to have our truth be spoken, and then let those who have the authority to make the decision make it.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Cheryl.
Mhm.
Dr.
Mhm.
Loretta, anything you want to add to that?
I agree with everything that Dr. Cheryl said. The only thing that I would add, for me, it depends on what that conflict might really be. If
Mhm.
it's something that there's unfair treatment to someone or something that's unethical, I'm a firm believer in document, and then document some more. So just keeping
Mhm.
that kind of information because you
Mhm.
might end up being the whistleblower, but it might be necessary. So it really depends on what the conflict is. But I truly agree with everything Dr. Cheryl said.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And likewise, Dr. Loretta, I agree too with the documentation, and
Hmm.
again, what's it worth?
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have to agree with both of you doctors. I think, for me, it's about choosing the right moment too, right? And method. I think more of a private, calm conversation, stick to your values, remind yourself of your
Right.
values. Also remind yourself of the non-negotiables. What are you not willing to negotiate
Mhm.
in terms of speaking up as well? But I think, making it private versus
Mhm.
public. Some
Mhm.
people, are a little bit disconnected when they start to make those public comments.
Mhm.
It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unprofessional, and I don't think it's fair to the other person as
Mhm.
well. So I think, speak up, but, do the private thing, do it with some integrity. I think that is what I would just add to that as well. So,
Yeah. And Dr. Dre, I think that that's a really big one with regards to doing it in private.
yeah,
And organizations don't always set us up
right,
to think that way. A
right,
lot of times we
Hmm.
think that the sausage is being made in the meeting,
right.
like this is where we're talking about it.
Yeah,
And that it's okay if I see it differently than my upline to share it in
right,
that open forum.
right,
Yet, that may not be okay.
right,
Sometimes when a decision is being made and people ask for input, they're looking for validation. They're
right.
not really looking for pushback.
Absolutely.
And so really
Absolutely.
being able to read the
Right,
culture.
right.
Sometimes there has to be a meeting before the meeting or a meeting
Hmm.
after the meeting
Yes.
to
Yes.
achieve what you talked about, Dr. Dre, that private space.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because
Hmm.
sometimes in the meeting might
Right.
simply lead to more conflict.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So would I be a disconnected leader to publicly put someone out there and to deal my conflict publicly? We're sitting in our weekly meeting, and I just call out my boss and says, "Hey, I don't agree with you on certain things. Your terrible decisions. Look at what it's gotten us. It's horrible. Now we're paying the con." Would that be so out of line and so out of touch for me to do that in a public setting if I'm doing a weekly meeting? We're just kind of checking in, and we've created that atmosphere to do that.
Well, Dr. Loretta, go on.
Okay. I would not recommend doing that.
I would not
What
either.
was his name?
Okay.
The newscaster just last night, Paley.
Ooh,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, I just wouldn't recommend doing it. I agree. You try to find that private moment to have that conversation. I don't think
Mhm.
anyone likes the embarrassment of being publicly
Yeah.
told
Mhm.
off. So I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
Even if they do say that's the environment. I
Hmm.
agree
Mhm.
with Dr. Cheryl. Sometimes people just want validation. They don't really want your input. So
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we got
Okay.
to read that. And again, we set people up for failure,
Right.
having them think they can do that. And it's not
Hmm.
that it's unprofessional and so on and so
Right.
forth. it's just not advisable. And we sometimes just have to learn
Yep,
that
absolutely.
because it's an unspoken rule.
Right.
Right.
You know?
Unspoken rules, which
Right.
are
Yeah.
very
Absolutely.
real.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Definitely. Definitely. Great. Thank you. And again, continue to send those audience questions in. Powerful. We could probably spend the whole show on just that question there, and really digesting that and feasting on it. But want to continue to move on and get more into our show. And I know we've got a few minutes to break, but Dr. Loretta, you want to just cue up the first question for myself or Dr. White? That'd be great.
Hey, I have a series of questions. I hope I'm on the right one.
Okay. Uh-oh.
When you hear the word conflict, am I on the right one? In
Yep.
a
Yep.
Mhm.
leadership context, what's
Yep.
your honest gut reaction? And has that reaction changed over the years?
Mm.
Mhm.
Early,
Uh,
I would just say early in my leadership journey again, I didn't like conflict. I mean, I met conflict with conflict, right?
Mhm.
And so I think over the years I have learned to mature and season my thinking in terms of wanting to at least, give people an opportunity to talk and to speak, and at the right time think about, when to deal with the conflict and how to manage that conflict as part of that process versus my gut reaction just responding off the top. I've learned to slow it down and kind of mature as part of that. So when I hear the word conflict today, I actually think it's an ally. I think, you can't have good relationship even within the workplace without the conflict, but I think there's an appropriate way to kind of engage it and deal with it and manage it as well. I'm not sure what you, Dr. Cheryl, what you think about that.
I certainly have over time my relationship with conflict has changed and my ways of dealing with conflict has changed. I think you talked about the Myers-Briggs in your opening as you kind
Mhm.
of read some of the statistics. I am a feeler with regards to an F on the Myers-Briggs, values,
Mhm.
people, impact, first screen for decision making. And so when something would hit me that I feel it's going to negatively impact people I care about or does not
Mhm.
align with my values, I could feel the conviction and it could lead me to a real strong response. I've over the years learned to know what was going on with me so I can better manage myself and engage in more constructive, reflective thinking
Mhm.
and delaying my response until not feeling so emotionally charged
Right.
before responding so that I can be more um, effective in my response to
Mhm.
conflict. Uh, and I do agree that it's an opportunity, and I can see it like that now.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I think over time we
Right.
begin to be able to put things in perspective.
Right.
And as we put it
Absolutely.
in perspective, we think, do I even have the energy or want to even
Yeah.
deal with this? And
Absolutely.
what's it worth?
Yeah.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Dr. Loretta, I know you asked the question, but any thoughts before we hit break?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you, but I think about when I first, started hearing the word conflict when I was in a leadership role, I always figured, okay, damage control, got to get something taken care of real quick. Like I got to go in there and be the superhero and make sure everything is taken care of and we stop it. I don't feel that way anymore. I definitely know conflict is natural. It's going to happen, but getting all the details and not thinking that I just got to run in there right away and take care of something. So, and a little pushback can be fine and reflectiveness on it. But I don't feel like I have to run in there unless, somebody is fisticuffs. I don't
Mm.
feel like I have to run in there
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
care of it immediately.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's certainly fisticuffs are happening everywhere across the world
oh
in the
yeah.
workplace. So
Mhm.
it's real. It's
Yeah.
absolutely real. So, okay, we got to take a break. I know that it went so fast here, but promise when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to continue to pick up the conversation of conflict in the workplace, conflict in your leadership style as you kind of navigate those waters as well. So, for those who are just joining us again, thank you for being part of this show. After the commercial break, we'll pick up some more on conflict. So, stay tuned. And we'll be back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, uh, informing leaders and inspiring solutions always. And just before break, we are starting to just dig into this conversation around conflict in the workplace, conflict in leaders. As part of that process, we offered you kind of a dropping statistic at the start of the show, but let me talk a little bit about the cost. According to some recent research, employees spend an average of about 3 hours per week managing conflict instead of focusing on core tasks
Mm.
when scaled across the workforce. And so this equates roughly to about $360 billion in paid hours and wasted annually in the US alone. And that's according to a recent study. CIPD talked a little bit about that. You can look that up, and there's more around that. Boy, it is expensive. Conflict is pretty
Mhm,
pricey.
mhm.
Interesting
Yeah.
statistic in terms of that. Speaking of conflict, this whole month we're going to be paying some special attention to conflict in the workplace and really where it comes in terms of your leadership. I want to again share with you for those who are going to be able to make it if they can. A wonderful offering, and I know we had this before. And let me see if I can pop this up again. Let me see here. Can you see my screen?
Not at the moment.
Mm.
All right.
Looks like it's about to come on.
Okay. So, yeah, so we want folks to
Yeah.
join us on the special offering on June 26th. It promises to be packed full of solutions, resources, and just good discussion around strategies for leaders in terms of how they deal with conflict. Some reflection, some planning, and some moving forward is what this session is all about. And so we want you to be with us on this June 26th, hour and a half of engagement and brought to you by the People's Doctors. And so we hope to drop some knowledge. But I think Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, we've always been in the position to learn as well, right? We don't think we know everything. Well, at
Mhm,
least I don't
Oh,
think
no.
I know everything.
mhm.
Learn everything. I can
No.
learn too. So I'm looking forward to the
Really?
session. I'm looking forward to learning more as well. So, all right, let's get into more of this. I know, Dr. Cheryl, you had a hot question
Mhm.
you wanted to kind of put out there. Why don't we get to that question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do appreciate that thought. I think that we have the philosophy of people learn and grow from interaction with each other. So we certainly don't know everything. We look forward to having our audience continue to ask us questions, send us information, and also joining us for this upcoming session. So it's an opportunity for us to learn from some of our listeners and as well as have some quality interaction.
Mm,
Question to both of you, Dr. Dre and Dr. Loretta. Was there a defining moment in your own leadership journey where conflict either made you or challenged you in a way that you really didn't expect?
wow.
And Dr. Dre, why don't we throw the ball to you first?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think earlier in my career, which was many eons ago. I know I may look about 20, 25 today, but many eons ago, I think there was a season in my career where I was leading a team through, we're going through kind of a major organizational change and a shift and transition. And a trusted friend of mine, colleague, and I had come into some serious conflict about the direction and the strategy. I had thought I crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's, had conversations even before we brought up the overall strategy. But what I didn't expect was how personal it felt and how much I was getting pushback from this colleague that I thought we talked it through, we shared information, we both agreed, but as we were getting close to putting the strategy into place, how much pushback I had. But I challenged myself, and it made some sense to me. I mean, there were some blind spots, there were some things that we didn't think of when we started to conversate and start to plan for the strategy. So it taught me again about passion, right? That when you really care about something and you're really passionate about it, sometimes that conflict can certainly stir up. And I think, if you can channel that conflict, because we both wanted what was best for the organization, and we reminded ourselves of that too, I think it can be most productive. And I think that's the powerful lesson that we both learned, especially me, myself, taking away in terms of when that scenario happens. And that's been a placeholder for me throughout my own leadership careers that, when people really think about conflict sometimes, it's really about, what you care about the most and what you're passionate about the most. And that's really what comes to play. How do you channel that passion and emotion and love for what you're doing? I think was important for me.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Dre. Dr. Loretta.
Yeah, thinking about that, and it goes back several years when I started my career in organizational effectiveness, and I worked for Fortune 500 companies, two of them, and I was the person who helped with the RIFs, reduction in workforce. So I would travel all over the country. We were acquiring different businesses, and I would be that wonderful person. People didn't want to really see me come. I was like the Terminator when I came, because I'm going to have that conversation, offer you this package, and tell you, well, basically, we're taking over and we don't need you. So what? You've been here 30 years and your
Ouch.
family depends on you.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So my conflict became internal conflict for me
Mhm.
that, in a way, I did love my job. I love the travel and all the things I got to do, but it really started to get to me. And I would walk into rooms, looking that I had all this confidence when I'm about to tell maybe half these people, you're no longer needed. Your job is eliminated. Here's your severance package. Go have a nice day. And that really started to get to me. And, I had someone one day say to me, how do you feel going around having to do that? And it really made me think because I was working, I had a family. How would I feel when it happened to me? And lo and behold, it did happen to me. But that I had an internal conflict with that. And I thought I did not really enjoy it at all. The travel, I didn't even enjoy the travel anymore because I was called the Terminator. I did not want to be that Terminator, and it was not in a nice way. So I decided I wanted to do other things under the umbrella of human resources or organizational development that actually allowed to me to work with people to help them to identify their own potential. So then I became in love with training and development, and that I found that was where my real passion was, seeing potential in people and helping them to develop and not eliminating them. So I had that internal conflict. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that being challenging. I think, well, I think about myself and conflict in situations. I don't know if it was a defining moment, but it was definitely a memorable moment when I worked in an organization. I worked for the city of San Diego. I've had a number of wonderful experiences with conflicts there, but one that comes particularly to mind is that we had advocated to have a policy changed to where employees that had been injured on the job would have first right of refusal for placement in positions that were lateral or demotional to their position when they were injured. And that way they weren't, losing their tenure with the city and they had more opportunities. Well, there were a number of departments that did not necessarily like that. And so found ourselves really advocating for employees to uh, you that maybe a supervisor would fail them on their initial performance evaluation. And I found myself going to their performance evaluation reviews and really trying to get to the bottom person not perform well, or and if so, were they not set up for success or were they set
Mm.
up for failure? Because if they were not set up for success, we would still have a liability because they were losing their job over reasons that were beyond their control if that termination was based on poor treatment.
Mm.
And so you can imagine, I was just a young woman,
Mm.
rehabilitation counselor, and here you have many people that really, one might say, outranked me within the organizational structure. I was blessed, though, to have my upline supervisors, Mary Ray, and rest in peace. Oh, goodness, I cannot think of, I can see his face. Why can I not think of our Gonzalez, Cruz Gonzalez?
Mm.
I was fortunate to have wonderful upline supervisors who really got my back as I was, you know, pushed in a space of what felt like advocacy, where it was not welcomed.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
mhm.
All right. I think I have the next question. All
Mhm.
right. Um, so understanding the conflict in leadership, there is a difference between conflict that divides and conflict that develops. Dr. Dre is always talking about he loves conflict. So we're gonna see if he a divider or a developer. How do you distinguish between the two, and how should leaders approach each?
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I enjoy both your responses to the previous question. I think it just, brought to life the reality that conflict is ever so present and it's not going to go away, right? But I am again, I keep going back to this whole notion, and we can certainly dig deep into it a little bit more. But I just think conflict is necessary, and I think dividing conflict, kind of tears folks apart, right? Because there's blame, there's a sense of defensiveness. There's this win-lose posture. There used to be this conflict inventory we used to do for fun years ago, where this was shark, the owl, the turtle. There was a couple of fox. There was something else, another animal, and the shark would always be on the win-win at whatever cost. And I don't know if I've ever been in that spot, but I think when I think about dividing conflict, it's about being really defensive and blaming others. But the developing conflict, on the other hand, kind of, it creates friction that kind of sharpens the thinking and deepens the trust. And I think that's the part I like about conflict, right? That you're not taking it personal, but this is for the better for the whole team, for you and other leaders in that organization. And so I think the difference often will lie in the intent. Is the goal to win the argument all the time, or is it to reach the best outcome? And so I think that's how I would think about the two, the difference between conflict that divides as well as one that develops. So
Mhm.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Cheryl.
Yeah, I think when I think of conflict that divides or conflict that develops, um, I think the framework that comes to mind for me is the recognition that whether conflict is going to be helpful and beneficial or destructive is our responses to conflict. So if I respond in a way that, as Dr. Dre said, it's winning at all cost, I'm tearing down someone, I'm retaliating. If I have a destructive response, likely it's going to divide. But if I have a constructive response where I'm trying to engage in some, I'm brainstorming some solutions, I'm willing to reach out and hear other people's perspectives. And then sometimes just simply adapting because that's the thing that was going to, it's the appropriate thing to do, given given the circumstances. I think there can be a lot of constructive learning, and in that
Mhm.
development, when we respond in a way that's constructive to conflict. The framework that comes to mind for me is the conflict dynamics profile that Eckerd College puts out. And so I think when we respond in a constructive way, it really supports development.
Okay, great. Not much more for me to add to what you all said because I agree with what you both said. But when I think of conflict that actually develops, you focus on ideas. You may not actually agree, but you will listen to the other person's ideas and you can come to some kind of maybe collaboration or something you can work on together, or at least, but you hear them out. When I think about conflict that divides, I think about people being attacked. It's more personal, and that you attack people to a point where it can be name calling or, oh, what a stupid idea that is, instead of just listening to what a person has to say, because you can learn something from someone who has ideas that are different than yours. And when it's been, you can have a good meeting and there can be conflict and sharing of ideas, and you can still leave that meeting feeling good because you don't feel like you were attacked
Mhm.
by someone. So that's what I look at as the develops and divisiveness.
Yeah. Do
Mhm.
you think if someone, but do you think there are times when you just need to call people stupid? Like, I mean, in a meeting, I mean, you're not really intentionally trying to cause conflict, but like that was the most stupidest idea I've ever heard. That don't even make sense. Where you come from in terms of these unbelievable, out of the ballpark ideas that has absolutely no reality to, I mean, don't you need to call out leaders sometimes
Well,
that just continuously deliver nonsense?
I think that that is a great example of a destructive response to conflict. That
Mm-hmm.
what links with
Yes,
Dr. Loretta said with
indeed.
regards to
Yes.
dividing, because it may not be that it may be that the response is not the most brilliant, but how we respond to it
Mm,
can either escalate or de-escalate. And a destructive response to conflict will tend to escalate the conflict as
Mm-hmm.
well as the divide.
yeah, yeah. Do you think that kind of leader can come back to being part of that team? Do you think that person can be made whole? And if they came back and says, "Well, look, I apologize. I didn't mean to call it a stupid idea. I didn't call you stupid. I said the idea was stupid." Do you think there's room for reparation and repair in those kinds of situations?
You know, Dr. Loretta, seems like you're going
No, I was just gonna say it really depends. I mean, of course you can apologize, but are you genuinely apologizing or are you gonna do it again? You don't wanna, if it's a pattern, your apology means nothing to me.
Mm,
And
So
I
you
think
have
that's
to
the
be
point.
genuine.
Yeah. I think that's the point, Dr. Loretta,
mm,
underscoring that, yeah, someone can apologize, but the apology needs to be followed with an amend. An amend means you're going to change your ways. And so
mm.
I'm going to say, if I say I'm not going to do that again, then I need to not do that again. So apologizing, great. It can help expedite the process of the healing that may need to take place from the destructive behavior and comments. But if you're going to do the same behavior again, then there's no trust that's going to come from that. If you say you're going to do it differently, you're going to amend your ways, and you do amend your ways, then yeah, there
Yeah,
can be some coming back
yeah.
from that
But,
situation.
but certainly, there's been some destruction, some disrepair that's part of that relationship now, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard to
absolutely.
build up trust again with
Mhm.
that individual. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
building
Definitely, yeah.
trust is definitely a process, and when
yeah,
we
yeah,
do things that knock up against it, it
absolutely.
can
Yeah,
damage it. Take some
absolutely.
time to rebuild.
That's
Mhm.
right. Absolutely. All
And
right.
I think that it's also for us to recognize that conflict can be de-escalated. It
Mhm.
never gets resolved unless the parties forgive.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that'll be the other piece
Yes,
to that,
Yeah.
right?
yes,
Right.
So
exactly. Yes.
de-escalation is one thing, but
Mhm.
have I really forgiven
Right.
Right,
myself or the other person? Or,
Right.
right.
because if not, then we're holding on to it.
Right.
And that in of itself can have some lingering impact
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
relationships and
Right.
how we
Definitely.
move
Right.
and work together.
We got to be willing to forgive, but we will never
Yes.
forget.
Don't have to forget,
Right.
but I
I'm
gotta be able to
always
let go and
reminded
forget,
about
right?
what Dr. Cheryl and
Mhm.
Dr. Loretta did to me in that meeting. Always. But I forgive you though, but I will never forget. Never.
Do you forgive us if
All
you
right.
saying
All
it
right.
like that,
Well, I
right?
gotta wait. Look, we gotta move to a break. We'll talk about it on the other side. Hey, folks. For those again who are with us, we're on this powerful conversation regarding conflict, and so when we return, we'll go deeper into this. We've got our second audience question we want to put out there as well. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on leadership matters with the people's doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. We have been in a very powerful conversation with the doctors this afternoon, trying to inform leaders and inspire solutions throughout all of this without causing too much conflict. But it's been a powerful discussion so far. And again, I am grateful to my co-hosts, Dr. Sheryl White, Dr. Loretta Howard, and really digging deep in terms of conflict and leadership, which is so powerful. I always like to, again, for some reason, I'm just dropping these little nuggets of information on you too as well. And according to Good Work Index 2024 study, employees who experience workplace conflict were significantly less likely to be satisfied with their jobs for those without conflict, so 54% versus 77%, and twice as likely to consider leaving within 12 months. So, Columbia University also did a recent study where they found that organizations with strong cultures have turnover rates of just about 14% compared to those at 49% for those with weak cultures and conflict-ridden climate as part of the organizational culture. So, I think we can agree to that. That makes some sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you think about turnover in your organization, think about the structure that you have in place and how you deal with conflict. I think that becomes a very powerful player in all of it as well. Also, as we talk about conflict, not only to this week, but the following weeks to come, we want to invite you to a very special offering. Again, Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, Strategies for Dealing with Conflict, June 26th. You don't want to miss it. Promises to be a very powerful engagement. Leaders from across the nation talking about strategies, share their own personal lived experiences, and walking away renewed and really ready to take on the world in terms of some new strategies and resources around conflict strategies. And so be with us on that day. You can copy that link below to register. You don't want to miss it. It promises to be a good one. So. All right. Let's get to our second audience question as well. And we have, I think, Dr. Loretta, Dr. Sher, we've been delighted to get these questions from the audience, and the feedback that we've been receiving too has been pretty powerful. And want to give people an opportunity to send in questions, comments, feedback, leadership matters, questions at innovisions.org. And we're going to put that on a slide one day and put that up there too. Leadership matters, questions Innovisions at innovisions.org. So you can certainly send us and use that loop to send us some questions and get into contact with us as well. So, but for our second audience question, let me pull it up here. It's pretty powerful too as well. It asks, how do you know when conflict has gone too far and it's time to let someone go versus continuing to work through it? How do you know when conflict has gone too far and it's time to let someone go versus continuing to work through it? Dr. Loretta, I'll start with you and then Dr. Cheryl.
Okay, well, my first thought is something that I said a little bit earlier. It depends on what that conflict is. If it's something that's creating a really hostile or unsafe work environment, I don't have to think about it twice. They need to go because it could be something physical that's happening or whatever the situation, but the environment is so hostile or they've done something so egregious, you're just gone. And that should be in your policies as well. I like the policies. But otherwise, I think you do allow people time, like with corrective actions and various things. There are things for leaders too. I mean, you work with them, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. If this becomes a pattern of behavior and you keep apologizing, but you still have the same pattern of behavior, we need to sit down and honestly say, this is not working. It's just not working. And it's time to let that person go because you can't keep allowing that same behavior to continue. And people are watching it. Oh, they apologize, but that person's still here. So then you are creating a hostile environment for some people as well. So,
Mm.
Mhm.
Dr.
Hmm.
Cheryl, how about you?
Um, I would say, okay, impact. It always kind of goes back to impact, right? What's the impact of the conflict? I am probably, other than maybe a performance situation, which really wasn't, there might have been conflict with regards to expectation of performance. I think the person was just no no longer capable of doing the job. But I haven't been in a situation where conflict has gone so far to where I had to let someone go. However, I had conflict with the supervisor, and the supervisor let me go.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
so evidently she felt like it had gone too far. And
Right.
there was a situation where my supervisor kept wanting me to discipline staff
Mm.
over issues and concerns that I thought uh, were not really things that were caused by staff. I felt that the challenge caused by the supervisor.
Mm.
Ah,
And, and the supervisor did not really appreciate me. She said, I feel like you support staff more than you support me.
Mm.
And it wasn't that I was trying to support one over the other. It was about I was trying to be honest with regards
Mm.
to where I thought the issue and the concerns were. And and she was honest that I was out of alignment with her, and evidently the conflict had gone too far.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I would, and I agree with both of you. I think repeated patterns, right, with no accountability, I think is a sign it's time to go. When the conflict begins to harm the team culture mission, it's time to go. And when there's fundamental value misalignment, it's time to go. And last, I would just throw this in because it's real. When violence has been provoked or put out in the atmosphere, like, watch your back. You gonna pay for this. It's time to go, right? So I think we take it seriously when those kinds of things happen, and there are times when folks have to go because the conflict is just too intense as well. So yeah, there's workplace violence is real, folks. So don't want
oh,
to underplay that as well. So
yeah, well, and that workplace violence is real, is
yeah,
another reason why I think we have to understand what's under some of that
mm,
sometimes.
yeah,
And
mhm.
and sometimes we think that when we terminate someone that it's out of sight, out of mind.
right,
But
Mhm.
sometimes out of sight, and all that person has to do is they have an opportunity to go home and obsess
mm,
over
Mhm.
what has happened. So it becomes
Exactly.
someone go to
right,
do it with compassion
mm,
and to do it in a way where they can, sometimes own their part of it
mm,
in it.
Mhm.
Or again, there may be circumstances under which a person needs to be let go because of funding or whatever have you. But however it's done, we want to make sure that it's done with dignity and respect and with
mm,
compassion. And
mm,
when I say with compassion, how do we reduce suffering
mm, right,
and increase as much I'll even say joy in the
mm,
midst of it. How do we do things in a way that that demonstrate to others that we care?
right,
Because when we don't do that, then you have more of a opportunity for a hostile environment to be created
absolutely.
and violence in the workplace to be a result.
Yeah. What about a nice text message? We appreciate so much what you've given to the organization, but please do not return. I mean, that way you avoid conflict. You don't have to see the person face to face. You don't have to be compassionate. I mean, you could be compassionate in the text. I mean, we've heard of stories like that where you get a big text goes out to thousands of
Mhm.
folks. Thank you for your efforts and what you've given to the organization. We no longer need your services. Your
Mhm.
stuff will be shipped to you in the next day's mail.
Mhm.
Appreciate you. Goodbye.
Yeah, I think that
Nope.
lacks compassion.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
is inappropriate for someone who's been working with you and they've been providing services. You want to show them dignity and respect, and I think everybody wants. There needs to be a recognition that in our country, most people are working because they need to for their livelihood. So there
Mm,
has to be some
mm,
consideration given to how disruptive losing a job is, and how do you support a person bridging to what's next.
yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I'll just add to that, when you said it, of course, I chuckled a little bit because I don't think a text is the best way to let someone go. At least do a virtual meeting, if nothing else.
Mm, mm,
But
Mhm.
there are so many remote workers and people are hired
mm,
remotely but the example you gave, Dr. Dre, was like, okay, we're in an office setting, so they're in this physical environment. I don't believe you should let a person like that go just with a text message. You should have the courtesy to speak to them and let them know why. And I agree with what Dr. Sheryl said. You've got to show some dignity. Maybe it's budgeting, whatever the reason is, but not through a text message, because I think that's just going to make them look at it, it's like that's all they cared about me. They
Mm.
sent me a text and told me not to. And even if they are remote, they might find the location to find you because they've had enough time to think about that. But if it's, some remote work, it's a possibility. They could be over in another country and it might be necessary. But I still say that would be, you'd see that person on the screen. I just don't see the text message. It's just not
Or an email.
the vehicle. Yeah.
Or email.
Or,
Nor
oh
an,
my goodness.
nor an
Yes.
email.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or an email now.
Mhm.
No.
Nor a mass email.
Right, right.
On top of
Especially
that.
not the mass email. Oh my
Hello.
goodness. Mhm.
Well, I just thought I'd put that out there because I know some folks kind of deal with conflict again, like that turtle analogy. They stick their head in the shell and say, "Okay, I really don't want to deal with the person face to face or what one on one. Let me do it the easiest way I know how to do it." And so put a
Mhm.
text out there, even leave a phone message perhaps. And I know they're not going to answer, so I think that's the other piece to that as well. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Not
Okay.
good. Good.
Thanks again for sending those questions. Keep sending those questions in. I mean, we love them. We love reading them. We love talking about them, trying to respond to them. If you got a different answer, please, again, go to Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org and give us your answer. We would share that too on the air as well. So, all right, let's get to rapid
Right.
fire. I love rapid fire. What do we have before us today, Dr. Loretta? Rapid fire. What do you
Oh,
got?
wonderful rapid fire questions. And I'm going to
Okay.
start with Dr. Sheryl. So
Okay.
get ready, Dr. Sheryl. Quick answers. First thing that comes to mind. So, what's the best way to deal with conflict? Conflict avoided or conflict addressed?
Addressed.
Okay. Email, phone call, or face to face for hard conversations?
Face to face.
The leader who avoids conflict or the leader who loves drama? Who's more dangerous?
A leader who loves drama.
Biggest conflict myth that leaders believe?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna skip that one.
Okay, okay. One word that describes how you feel walking into a tough conversation.
Mm, tense.
Yes, okay, okay. Apologizing first, is that a sign of weakness or a sign of strength?
Strength.
Strength, okay.
Mhm.
The hardest
That was
person
hard
to
for you to
have.
get out your lips, said Dr. Cheryl. That was a tough one for you to answer, wasn't it? Okay.
Look, you know what? I thought I said it, but I must have said it in my mind.
Okay.
Okay, and it didn't
Come
come
on, my
out.
word, didn't it?
Okay.
All right. The hardest person to have a conflict conversation with, a peer, a supervisor, or someone you lead.
Supervisor.
A book every leader dealing with conflict should read.
Mm, well, I mean, I don't want to go be like religious or anything I say, but I think one of the
That's
things that
okay.
really helps with conflict is prayer. So,
Yeah, yeah,
there'll
yeah,
probably be a
indeed.
lot of there are probably a
Mhm.
lot of wonderful stories about conflict in the Bible, but I won't.
Mhm.
Oh, there are. And they handle them very
It's a whole nother
differently.
open show. But I think uh, I'll pass on that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Silence in a conflict, is that a powerful tool or a red flag?
I think silence can be helpful for reflective thinking. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. What does healthy conflict resolution actually feel like when it works?
It feels like what we talked about earlier. Both parties are able to let go. They're able to forgive. Um, so that feels good. Mhm.
Conflict you wish you had addressed sooner.
Not sure.
Okay. Last thing you do before a difficult leadership conversation to get your head right.
Pray.
There you go.
Mm.
All right.
Powerful.
All right, Dr. Dre, you're up. You heard the questions, so get
Hmm.
ready. Get
Yeah.
ready.
Mhm.
So, which conflict should be avoided or conflict addressed?
A conflict addressed every time.
Email, phone call, or face to face for hard conversations?
You didn't say text, did you? Okay. Okay. Face
No,
to
I
face.
did not.
Face to face.
Okay. The leader who avoids conflict or the leader who loves drama? Who's the most dangerous?
I think it's the avoider, right? I think it's the avoider. Avoidance is silent and systemic. I say the avoider.
Okay. The biggest conflict myth that leaders believe.
That avoiding conflict keeps the peace.
That's a good one.
That
Hmm.
is.
Mhm.
One word that describes how you feel walking into a tough conversation.
Resolved.
Okay. Apologizing first, is it a sign of weakness or a sign of strength?
Of course, is a sign of weakness. Apologizing first, but no, I'll say I'll do like Dr. Cheryl did. Strength. Oh, strength.
Oh. The hardest person to have a conflict conversation with, a peer, a superior, or someone you lead.
I think someone you lead, and because of the power dynamic.
Okay. A book every leader dealing with conflict should read.
And, I think crucial conversations. I think was that by
That's a
Patterson?
good one.
Yeah,
I like
Mhm.
crucial conversations. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Silence in conflict, is it a powerful tool or a red flag?
I think it depends on who's using it and why, right? But silence after truth is often powerful, right? The quietness, I think, is powerful.
What does healthy conflict resolution actually feel like when it works?
I think clarity, renewed trust, deeper trust, like a weight's been lifted.
Okay. Conflict you wish you had addressed sooner.
Probably the one I kept telling myself, well, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. Don't have to worry about it. It's not that big of a deal.
And the last thing you do before a difficult leadership conversation to get your head right.
I think that I love Dr. Cheryl, the prayer,
Yes.
breathing, reminding myself of the
Mhm.
relationship and that we'll get through it. It's part of life. It's part of what we do and who we are. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And
absolutely.
you all have passed rapid fire.
Oh, isn't that special? Isn't that
Thank
special?
you. Thank
Well,
you.
I got to ask you, Dr. Loretta. I'm not going to ask you all the questions, but
Thank
again,
you.
I think, I love to hear your answer on, again, if you apologize, is that a sign of weakness or strength?
I
Apologizing
think it
first.
I think apologizing first, like walking in the room saying, I'm sorry that this happened.
Mm.
Well, I do consider
Ah,
it a
there we go.
sign of
Come on, let it out, let it out.
I do. No, I do consider it a sign of strength that for a leader who is willing to apologize.
Okay.
That's what a leader who is willing to genuinely apologize. But again, it goes back to what we said earlier. It has to be genuine, and people can tell when you're not if you don't really mean that. So
Mm,
it has to be genuine because and even your body language when you're
yeah.
apologizing, people could tell. They look at your nonverbals. Your nonverbals can be screaming while you're saying I'm sorry, but it depends on how you say it and do you
Absolutely.
genuinely mean it. But done in the right way, definitely a strength.
All right. Dr. Sher, I'm just going to ask you this one last question because we have to close the show pretty soon. But do you think there's ever a time where leaders should not try to resolve conflict? I mean, quick response. What do you think about that? Is there ever a time when, no, I'm not going to ever try to resolve this conflict? It just doesn't pay to do it. Is there ever a time when that situation might present itself?
I think conflict needs to be resolved. So I can't think of a time when leaders should not resolve conflict unless it's so petty. It's not a big deal. Uh, you know. So I think I do a lot based on impact. What's the impact?
Okay.
And I think people have to play the tape to the end. And I think as leaders, we just have to do that on a regular basis. Let me play this tape to the end. If I
Yeah.
don't resolve this, what's going to be the impact?
Yeah. Definitely.
Mhm,
Definitely. Dr. Loretta, how about you, real quick?
mhm,
I do believe that the leader should try to resolve it. Some things you're not going to be able to resolve no matter what, especially if you're dealing with people because everybody's different. They have
mhm.
different perspectives, and anytime you're working with other people, personalities can come into play. So I think the leader should do everything they can to try and resolve it, but just if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. And sometimes that just depends on who's who's having that conflict.
Hmm.
And personalities clash a lot. Sometimes you have to be like, well, it's just not going to work.
Definitely. Definitely. Great. Well, we've got to end this show. I mean, it's coming to an end here. We're going to continue the conversation throughout the month of June. We've got some wonderful leaders who will be joining us over the next several weeks to explore conflict, leadership, workplace, and so much more. We've got our wonderful engagement June 26th. We'd love to have you join us for that engagement as well. And continue to send us questions and feedback. Drop us lines. How are we doing? How are we not doing? What else do you want to hear? Love to hear your voice as well. Leadership Matters, questions at innovisions.org. But we've got to wrap it up today. I want to thank each of you for being with us, and to our listening audience for tuning in. Again, we just invite you to continue to send us questions and feedback. You can join us as we download. You can download this on all kinds of social media platforms: Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify on Thursdays. It's yours. Take a look at it, spread the word. Tell other leaders, hey, there's something good happening with Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors as well. We'd love to have them join us as well. So until we meet next time, again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening to us, where we continue to inform leaders and inspire solutions. Until next time, we'll see you then.